We thought that our new president, John Schuster, would actually be addressing you, but he had a trip planned, so he won't be it. But to start with, I hope you are all well fed and did your bidding as you should. And for starters, I would like to welcome up to the podium the CEO of the beautiful Arboretum here, hosting us tonight, and
Thank you, Steve. So great to see you all here. This hall was actually created for events just like tonight. About 10 years ago, we said, let's carpet it and put up some wall treatments, and we'll have wedding receptions in here. And someone said, what about the 20, I think we have 30 plant shows a year in this hall, plus dozens of plant society meetings. And this is really what this hall is for. I'm particularly happy to be welcoming this society. When I joined SoCal Hort, I think I had black hair. Was that? I was a part-time groundskeeper at UCLA, and David Barrett said you should check this out. Maybe you'll learn something. I'm so glad I did. But so happy tonight to be part of honoring Mike and Tree of Life Nursery. I was just saying to Mike that to visit Tree of Life is like the Southern California I love. So great to have you all here and enjoy. And come on back and enjoy the gardens as well. Thank you.
We want to welcome Lily Singer to the podium, who is going to talk about Dr. Ayers and why this is called Ayers Hall.
So we thought it would be appropriate to let you know, and Richard didn't know about this, to let you know why this is Ayers Hall. So I've been coming to the Southern California Horticultural Society meetings since I was a teenager. My parents brought me. And there were some amazing people that came to those meetings, including Dr. Samuel Ayers. So if you don't know who he was a dermatologist who practiced until 3 weeks before he died at age 94. He still went into the office. And he was responsible for this being the Arboretum and other things. So he just tell a little bit. So, and I did bring my phone up. He was born in 1893 and died in 1987. I remember him walking into the meetings, so in the 70s basically, carrying armloads of branches from flowering trees and laying them down on the platform and with all the names, because that was his shtick. He and his wife went on their honeymoon to Hawaii, and they saw all these amazing flowering trees, and they said, why doesn't Los Angeles have those? So that became his mission, was to plant beautiful trees. So if you don't know, the Capuia, or whatever it is now, of course, the yellow one, was his responsibility. A lot of things that we wish, all of the coral trees along San Vicente, that was Dr. Ayers, and many other things. So a lot of it was eucalyptus, a lot of tropical and South American and Australian things. So what is really significant tonight, when he came back and decided this was something he should do, he and his wife had the idea to start something called Los Angeles Beautiful, which was an organization that worked on beautification of the city. He was an early member of Southern California Horticultural Society, which was established in 1937, am I right? Okay. And so as part of the, what was called the Southern California Horticultural Institute, until the 90s, it got changed because there was somebody making plant fertilizer or something that used that same name. So the board decided to make us a society instead. But part of what he did under the auspices of the Southern California Horticultural Society was he was a member, and everybody was saying, why isn't there an arboretum? So he found a site. He found Lucky Baldwin's property here in this area, and he was the one that basically was the person who made the arboretum happen with the county and everything else. He had a lot to do with this being here. So he suggested the arboretum site, made it happen. What did I also write on here? The Men's Garden Club of Los Angeles, which I have spoken to 2 or 3 times. This is a really exclusive garden club. Movers and shakers of the male Anyway, so the Horse Society was part of organizing that. And anyway, he also asked him, I was going to tell you, the trees, they look beautiful. You ought to read them. I think that's probably going to do it. But he was pretty amazing. And practicing into his 90s. I mean, kind of neat as a doctor. And his son carried on as a dermatologist as well. So, anything you want to have that I'm forgetting, Laurel? Because you kind of talked
Well,
about
there's a
this.
book that was put out called Flowering the
Of course.
Landscape,
Right.
and Milton Mathias was working with him on that, and David Verity also.
Right. So, this is a book called Flowering Plants in the Landscape. It's going to be titled something, yellow and then black
It
covers.
came out in fascicles, and they finally put it
So
together.
there was a bunch of little, a bunch of pamphlets that got put together, and Phil Chandler wrote most of the plant descriptions, and Dr. Bears worked with Miller to organize it. Their theater of painting was part of a big section in there. It was a seminal book, and I would recommend any landscape designer look for it. You can find it for $5. It's really an amazing book. So, okay, that's it. Oh, I forgot. I have something else to do. Hold that for a minute. So, some of you Steve alluded to the fact that he is no longer president of the Horse Society. John Schuster is taking over for a year, and we'll see what happens after that. So, Steve, there are two things in here for you. Harry, I'm going to Lucy Ann from my desk because I want to stick something in this. So this is a beautiful handmade porcelain pot by Marjorie Marnis, who he knows. It's so gorgeous.
Oh,
It's
that's
like
really
a glass on the top. So that's for you. Oh, here's the plant I need identified. Copy of your opinion. And then this is the rest of the gift. Okay. So open it up. So this is from the Horticultural Society and the board, thanking you for all your service. And you can see that now this is a gift certificate to Annie's Annuals and Parades for $150, which is $1 for every year he has served.
Thank you so much.
And the card is really cute. It's got like this deer on it.
Go backwards on the slideshow.
So sorry, but you're taking away the punchline.
Oh, no.
How did we do
I
that?
see Debbie.
Oh, okay, got it. One more. Okay, there you go.
Setting stuff down. So, we've all gathered tonight to honor the Horticulturist of the Year. The board up here that you see, I don't know if all of you have actually seen this, it's actually all of the past recipients of the Horticulturist of the Year award from the Southern California Horticulture Society. And we have a number of living recipients in the audience. I would like them all to stand right now. It's wonderful. So, tonight, we are going to be honoring Mike Evans. And first, up to the podium, I have to have notes for this. So, we will be hearing from his daughter, Debbie Cressy.
I didn't tell Mike that I would be speaking. So some of my earliest memories of my dad are watching him wrap up conversations at events like this. Perhaps some of you have even had the privilege of being one of the individuals who was talking to my father, while me, my mother, and my older brother and sister, what felt like endlessly, for my dad to finish talking to people. This aggravating habit of making his family wait abundantly of his time and energy to invest in others. And he truly sees it as an investment. Those of us who know him well know that his generosity stems from his deeply rooted faith as a follower of Jesus Christ. In fact, he has so much he wants to share and accomplish, the days simply weren't long enough for him. So about 5 years ago, he changed his morning routine to wake up at 4:30 a.m. each day, so he can fit more in and be available to more people more of the time. We are a lucky family. In addition to taking us to events like this, we had the joy of going camping frequently from when we were very young. Additionally, we were also lucky enough to get to collect seeds on many of our camping trips. I distinctly remember pulling to the side of a desolate road and picking up buckeye seeds. Not only that, but it's not every kid that knew the difference of weight of a viable Quercus agrifolia acorn as compared to a hollowed out, useless Quercus agrifolia acorn. But we did. Those camping trips and my father's passion for nature, wildlife, native plants, and the outdoors instilled a deep appreciation for conservation in each of his children. My mother deserves a mention or more here. Let's just keep in mind who got the kids ready for all the events like this and for all the camping trips. As a new mother, I appreciate this more than ever. The quote of behind every great man is a great woman applies here, though in the case of my mother, I would substitute kick ass for great. Together, our parents instilled the value of hard and consistent work. We also have the opportunity to work at the nursery as children, to learn the value of work. I will never forget Age, who is here and has known me since I was young enough to work at the nursery as a child, teaching me to transplant cuttings into forage, and Gloria, who is also here today, showing me how to make cuttings and stick them. Nor will I forget how doing those tasks as a child for hours felt like torture. However, there was also a paycheck, so that taught me a great deal as well. My sister is one of, just to give examples, my sister is one of the hardest workers I've ever met, as well as one of the most generous people I've ever known. She embodies some of the best qualities of her father. My brother started his own business and works at all hours, much like his father, while still making time to spend quality time with his family. I'm no slacker, but I am the youngest, so for all things I hold myself to a looser standard than my older siblings. As an adult, I circled back around to those itty-bitty plants, and I had the blessing of getting to work for my dad and with my dad for 10 years at Tree of Life Nursery. I got to observe my dad in a professional context, and he also got to observe me. That was neat. We had fun with each other, and we were exasperated with each other. We brainstormed, dreamed, hit the cold realities of tight budgets, and worked towards growing the best darn native plants we could. Those were really special, precious years. I'll never forget our lunches together, and that he would often bring me mom's cooking, and always shared his avocados and dessert. Lastly, I feel compelled to speak about my father's vision and ability to relate to people of multiple generations. As a young man, he was always very popular with the white hairs, and as a current white hair, he is investing and generously giving to the future generations. First to his family, who are all here tonight, my mom, Hilda, my sister Sylvia and her husband, Glenn, my brother Liz and his wife Liz, and his grandsons, Joshua and Zachary, me, my husband Bobby, and my daughter Charlotte, who is 6 months old. As with any person with a life well lived, there's so much more to say. I have a unique perspective of being Mike Evans' child and a Mike Evans colleague. I hope that I have helped to give you a unique perspective of this man, my father, who is a giant in my world and a giant as an influencer for nature, native plants, and conservation. Thank you.
of CNPS, Laura Camp.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Excuse me. So I've had the privilege of working with Mike, and I'm sitting next to him in our office, in our Strawvale office. That was Mike's inspiration, pretty much, for more than 20 years. And I'm sure you can imagine what an incredible honor and also a challenge it is to help introduce Mike, but also you representing all of the employees that are here and the ones that aren't here, both past and present. But I'll try to do that in a few words. Mike's had positions of great influence in the horticultural world, including serving as president of the California Society for Ecological Restoration, SurCal, and also president of the National and the Worldwide International Plant Propagator Society, IPPS. So he is a true industry leader, but we at the nursery have had the benefit of his leadership up close and personal and on a daily basis. And our colleague Katie noticed that Mike takes an ecological approach to how he approaches horticulture and life. So one of the reasons that, and she phrased this and I kind of expanded on it a little bit, but that he's such a good horticulturist is that he has the perspective of an artist and a geologist. He's a musician and a composer. Quite a Renaissance man. He's a writer, he's a poet, he's a farmer. I think that's what he would say first and foremost. An original thinker, an architect, a visionary, he's a photographer, he's a teacher. He just marries all these different perspectives and creates a real holistic approach to everything that he does and that he guides us on. A little bit on the lighter side, we know by that Mike has a love-hate relationship with technology. He was a really early adapter of Apple computers, and to this day we still have Apple computers at the nursery. And he loves Google Mail and Google things. You know, he's been a real enthusiast of Google. But there's the other side where he resists the computerized records and thinks that writing invoices is the best thing in the world. He held on to his flip phone for years. He even wrote a song called The Lookout Blues about the travesty of how we're all looking down at the phones instead of out at the world. But Kevin was telling me this story that when Mike first secretly got his iPhone, he caught him up in the nursery looking down at his phone. And he said, "Hey Mike, look up!" And Mike said, "Don't tell anybody," and Debbie made me get it. And so now Mike's a social media influencer, if you've seen some of his Instagram videos. This is a guy who resisted having a fax machine back in the office back in the day. That was, why can't they just call us, you know? But of course, Mike's enthusiasm for plants is legendary. He's a collector of seeds and cuttings and photography. His catchphrase is about beautiful, hardy, performing plants is that it's a kick-ass plant. He has legendary stashes in corners of the nursery. Some of them have the correct names on them, and some of them just say Mike's plants. Or if you don't know what it is, it's probably Mike's plants. He makes time at the spur of the moment to entertain the eccentric Israeli grower or host an Argentinian guy that I think was a scholar, I'm not quite sure, or a religious man, showing the visitors from Hawaii all over the nursery and helping them select plants from these collections that pertain to them. He takes time to talk with friends, new and old. He meets his best friend for coffee every Wednesday morning. He's someone who will lie down on the concrete floor with the dogs. Seriously, he does that. And he'll play his guitar and sing in front of his computer at the end of a long week. And he and Jeff are notorious for their April Fool's pranks. But I have to say that there have been a few played on Mike as well. That we passed down as nursery lore. Mike's partner, Jeff, his co-owner of Tree of Life Nursery, couldn't be here tonight, but he passed his words on to me. So to us, the audience, Jeff says, "I'm sure you will, or I've already heard of all of Mike's accomplishments, so I want to say a word about the man, my friend. I occasionally come to work without my lunch. Mike will notice it and offer me half of his, saying he has way too much even though he doesn't. He will get me a plate, serve it to me, and then clean up my dishes. This is typical Mike. You have to know how good Mike's wife's Hilda's food is to realize what's excellent. Mike makes you feel noticed, valued, cared for, and loved. He loves God, he loves his family, and he loves us all very well. And then from Jeff to Mike, congratulations. You deserve this award. You've worked tirelessly and with contagious enthusiasm, moving native plants out of the shadows into the shade. Jeff thought that was pretty good into the shade because we're not really in the light yet. Just a final word, many of my employees are here and today. Some have been with him for decades, and some other people that have worked at the nursery. Anybody that's worked at the nursery as an employee or a consultant or speaker, could you raise your hand? So everybody that's here. Then there's our customers. I think just about every one of you has probably been to the nursery. We appreciate it so much. You're our lifeblood and our partners in crime for native plant crime. If you bought a plant from Tree of Life Nursery, we appreciate it. And so all of us, we applaud, appreciate, and celebrate Mike, our boss and our friend. Thank you.
And next up to the mic, we will have, and it says on my notes here, CNPS luminary and native gardener, Dan Sonser.
So that had to be Lily. But I am a native plant gardener. Thanks for the invitation to speak about Mike a little bit. I'll try to make it short. I know you really want to hear him, but part of my gardening career started in 1975. I've been a gardener prior to that, a landscape designer and so forth. But when the college I ended up working at wanted a native garden, I had no clue what that was. So in 1975, I started researching, being a friend, went through months, figured out what communities we wanted to represent the garden, and thought we'd make a nice list of plants to get them all, and found out you couldn't do that. You couldn't just go anywhere and buy them. Yeah, so we ended up having great trips that meant a lot to us to go to distant nurseries. And I think Theodore Payne was one of the shorter trips, and then a few CNPS plant sales here and there. But Tree of Life opened. Thank you. Because just like, Fred Lang, the Laguna Beach landscape architect said, he was trying to get people into natives way back then. And he had, that was his big issue, that he couldn't really get the plants. So he dropped these plants with a lot of great plants, but couldn't always pull it up. And you notice that Tree of Life's plants that they brought in for the bidding tonight that, are over there, those are all introductions from Tree of Life. So it's a pretty neat thing. So yeah, you can go there and get lots of plants, but it's also become an institution. Every week there's a different program. If, there's just so much information and education coming out of that place that it's like having our little version of Theodore Payne down in Orange County, right on the border with that other county, San Diego. Sorry, Greg. I think it was touched on, by Debbie when you mentioned his looking at the youth, and one of the things that I like about Mike is that although he respects and appreciates the role in the history of past and current horticulturalists, he's really Tree of Life has become a training ground also for future ones. And you see them moving into other positions with other nurseries or moving out into sometimes Orange County park system or state parks in positions, and it's through their work at Tree of Life that they really got a lot of that fire burning in the winter time, beautiful artwork, lovely color, everyone with a smile. The advice is great. Demonstration gardens planted around it, and of course, all the retail plants that they have for sale, nicely put around it. So it's just a great experience to be there. And I won't touch too much on Mike's accomplishments, other than to say that he was obviously early on involved with what was then called Xeriscape. He was Xeriscape committee through Metropolitan Water District. He was one of the founding members of that. That was in the 80s. I met him in the 80s, and I received a bishop pine from him, a box one that was root bound that he thought would die for sure. So we put it in the native garden at Gold West College, and it's still growing to this day. There you go. Anyway, but the price is right. It was wonderful. You know, you can say so much about someone like Mike and a great institution like Tree of Life Nursery. The impact that Mike has had, his kindness, his willingness to listen to people, and to give of himself, because he's obviously been a speaker to every chapter of CNPS in Southern California. Excellent writer. I think if you see his work in his website, you get a little feeling of maybe Bert Wilson from Los Politos mixed with Carol Bornstein, with a few other people rolled into that. Just an excellent writer, and a great wit, which is always nice to have. So in conclusion, let me just quote Alan Lacey, a great garden writer, columnist from the East Coast, but nevertheless, he suspected that more loving and caring people can be found among gardeners than among any other group united by a common interest. And I think that's true, and I think we're honoring one of them tonight, and we're honoring Mike Evans. We appreciate his foresight, intellect, his drive, his love of family, people, and dogs, not necessarily in that order. Various philosophies he has, sense of humor, and his kindness. And he's very deserving of this award.
And so now I'd like to welcome Mike Evans up to the podium. Annual Award for Outstanding Contributions to Horticulture, Horticulturist of the Year, Mike Evans.
I want to thank you so much. This is like a dream come true, beyond a dream come true. I had no idea. Lily called me back in the spring, and I've been blown away ever since. I'm more blown away now than ever. When I see that poster, I know that the very, very kind things that were said by my daughter Debbie, by my dear friend Laura Camp, and by Dan Sangster, absolutely apply to those names on that list corporately, because that's who you are honoring, are people that love plants just the way we all do. And so it means so much to me to see the people that I know, many of you that I'm just meeting for the first time, and people that I work with. I heard, though, this was a nomination, and I thought there was going to be like a vote. So I bust in a bunch of voters. Everybody that brought on the Hort Fun Bus from San Diego. We hired a bus, and we get a nice ride home.
Thank you, Nina.
Thank you so much for coming. And Nina, who organized all of that, Nina Hoskinson. So much has been said about the inspiration. I'd like to talk about that tonight. Inspiration as it relates to telling stories and getting people involved. You saw that the question that we're asking, is there an app for millennial horticulture? How can we change and improve, if you will, the average age of this room? Lower it. is what I'm getting at. And we can, and we are, and I see it's happening already in every day and every year that goes by, and this is good news. I'm mostly, I need to restate how my daughter did, that my inspiration is without limit because of my family, and without you I have none. So my wife, Hilda Evans, who makes all things beautiful and is really good at 40-mile-an-hour passenger seat botany. To this day, our 43 years together have taught us how to use each other's time and energy and talents. Our home is so beautiful with flower arrangements, dried flowers, craft of all kinds, and a beautiful garden, which I can give her credit for, and her incredible support, encouragement, and love. And then it's not Christmas, and we're all in the same room. This is pretty amazing. So I have Sylvia, my daughter, who married an artist, Glenn, who is a professional photographer. She got us into technology by buying the first of everything, microwave, my first cell phone, the first VCR. We still have that, by the way. It's hard to find video cassettes to play on it anymore. And my son Daniel and his wife, who is also an artist, and so is he. He's a graphic designer who got us into technology through the web, designed our website. His wife Elizabeth is a teacher at a high school teaching ceramics, and their children are here, Joshua 13 and Zachary 10, who are excellent in photography and drawing and many other things, but I'm concentrating on the arts, like Debbie, who you met here, who is now a speech language pathologist, but worked for years at Tree of Life Nursery. She married an artist, in this case Bobby Cressy, a musician. He's here, and he is all things keyboard and piano in San Diego. Hey, all you Dodgers fans, he plays for the Padres. He plays the organ for the Padres. He's actually met the Los Angeles Dodgers organist, the newest one, I'm not sure, but the one that retired recently. So, Nancy B, by name. So there's a small guild of organ players in the professional baseball world, and he's part of it. And their daughter, who I won't ever forget in public from the podium, Charlotte Cressy, we may have seen. She's in the running for cutest baby on the planet. 6 months. One time, Debbie was talking about me up here talking and having to do official things for some society. This one was International Plant Propagator Society. This is not on my script. Did any of you know Jolly Bachelor at Cal Poly Pomona? Okay, well he was an amazing man, an instructor, and he was a prankster. So here's my daughter, about 12 years old, and she's sitting in that table right there, and Jolly Bachelor, this fantastic horticulturist, had given her a ping pong ball, sliced in half, with pinholes in it so she could see out each pinhole, with painting on it of bloodshot eyes. So she took the two halves of the ping pong ball and put them in her eyes like this. She could see me, and she's staring at me with bloodshot eyes from right there. And I'm supposed to give somebody else, Joe Salamone, a great horticulturist from his day, an award. I'm honoring Joe Salamone with Debbie staring at me with bloodshot ping pong eyes. That's not fair. So today, at this banquet, which is such an honor for me, and every person who's stood at the podium on this day of this banquet has said the same thing, and it's not just words. It really means a lot to all of us, the people that are here present, those that are not here, and those that have gone on. This is an amazing honor for all of us, and I really do thank you. The society, we mentioned International Plant Propagator Society, and the energy that surrounds horticultural societies in general. It's just a fantastic thing to know. Look at this, paper and pencil, can you believe it? Sorry. To know that people are this adamant about plants. You know, there's another hort society south of us called San Diego Hort. You know about them, and one north called Pacific Hort. We'll talk about them in a minute. But the recipient of the 2018 Horticulturist of the Year of the San Diego Horticultural Society, Greg Rubin, is here. And I'm honored by his presence. The hort societies are recognizing native plants. Carol Bornstein is on this list, and many others in the past. Clear back to Theodore Payne, Percy Everett, Ralph Cornell, unbelievable list. David Barrett, Mildred Device, unbelievable On the left, you see Debbie and Danny, both shirtless, and their big sister Sylvia, and the attempt here is to make elderberry wine, but the real goal is to extract elderberry seed for propagation. The wine was terrible, never crushed anything in galvanized tins. Sylvia's actually wearing a t-shirt that says, "Native plants do it naturally." And that's yours truly dabbling in technology in the early days. I bought the Apple computer for them. So the question is there an app for millennial horticulture? California is an incredible place and characterized by the oak savanna. The Mediterranean climate that we enjoy here is so iconic and beautiful, and the plant communities that are all around us are, there's no place on earth like California. So there can be no place on earth like California for horticulture like California. It's a quintessential landscape that is classically Mediterranean. And the plants that come out of this type of environment include some of our best, which are native, in this case Romnea and cultivar White Cloud, which was a hybrid selected by Theodore Payne in the late 40s and introduced by Saratoga Horticultural Foundation in the 50s. So these plants, this fantastic flora and vegetation, the topography, the place itself is indeed magical, and we are truly blessed to have an opportunity to live and work in a place with such beauty. I call it point and shoot beauty. We all know how to travel and take that epic shot of Yosemite Falls. My son-in-law Glenn has done that as a professional photographer. Many of us have traveled into the most iconic spots in California and taken those big shots. How about just driving down the road, seeing something that looks pretty cool, rolling down your window and snap? And that's what you can do in California, and that's what these two photos came from. Carol Bornstein, who's a great hero of mine, is here, and she oversees this native garden at the Los Angeles County Natural History Museum. You know it well. It's a wild garden in the center of a big city, and it means so much because it exemplifies wilderness and wild connection to the outdoors, which is what a garden is. Let's talk about this for just a minute. If nature is this big ballroom where we really want to spend time, and we really want to be well and be healed, and there's a lot of talk on this, and amazingly, this big ballroom, which is nature, is being talked about on the iPhone and through social media, which is where we're going with this. Hello, we're trying to get millennials into horticulture. One told me recently, I hate these labels, millennial, okay, but I'm going to talk about it. It's people that basically have an iPhone as if it were part of their body. It's an appendage. That's the definition that I understand. And they know how to use it well, and it's a beautiful thing because when they do, they get a lot done, and it means a lot. So we're going to talk a story about them, and we're going to understand that they want to go into that ballroom badly. We all do. John Muir said we all need nature, and we do. But how do you get in there when it's so far away and time is so precious and there's a lot of crowds and where do I go and what do I do? You know what a garden is? It's like the lobby. And you can hang out there. And in a garden, you can get ready for the ballroom, and you can also come out of the ballroom and tell stories about what you just saw and experience on an everyday life wilderness and a true healing outdoor experience in what is a garden. So let's talk about horticulture. The first were Native Americans. They knew every plant, every animal, every star, every rock, every use for everything. And they selected and brought into their campsites and their village sites the best juncus, the best sumac, the best elderberry, the best deer grass. These were cultivars. In essence, they were selections. And they knew what they were doing. The next people to come into California, we could do a whole talk on horticultural history. It's a fantastic study, but we're the mission fathers who came in with a keen knowledge of this environment. Then fast forward about 100 years, 100 or so, 70, 80 years, and I think the glory years for California horticulture can be summed up in the 1910s and 20s when the architecture, the roads were new, and the people were, they got it. This is California, let's live like it really is. Interestingly, there are records of more plants available in the ornamental nursery trade, more species and more diversity during this era and during the 30s than there are now. fast forward another 50 or 60 years and you get irrigation. You get water that comes in from afar on canals and projects. Another whole talk, but you know the story, you know where I'm going with this because an industry was built out of it. Okay, and this, I appreciate that. I risked my neck for this photo. There was no shoulder. My dog is in the truck going, really, we're going to park here? And we did. And I got out and I got this. And man, okay. So you get where I'm going. This industry, and we could go about it, is, and I have my own way of slamming this unabashedly, but I don't want to bring you down after dinner. So I want to show photos that would just be, oh, really? Is that what our gardening industry has come to? No, that's what the landscape industry looks like. And so I only offer this to say this in a very positive note, and I really mean this. There are so many people that I will call young adults or the millennial generation who want to work outdoors, who want to make a difference, who want to contribute to society and engage in beauty, and they see this and they're turned off by it and they want to make a change. There are also people in this industry, I have them in my class at Saddleback College, native plant classes that I teach there, and they are in that because they're in this and they want to see a change. They're younger. Okay, so this, as crazy as it might seem, and we could laugh about it through our tears, is not acceptable. So they and I would propose that as a general premise, as seen above, we should just end landscaping and get back into the business of gardening. Do I hear an amen? So that's what you do. That's who you are. This is what this society has represented since the 30s. I can't do the math right now, I'm a little nervous. But we know what the real garden looks like, what the garden experience is, how you go in and you're made well. They taught us this in Japan. The whole garden ethic is to go in and experience a time there so that when you leave, you're better. And we can do this in California, and we are doing it, and we're going to send those other leaf-blowing crazies a note which just says thanks for the memories. So a true native plant garden, in this case a 25-year-old beautiful front yard in Encinitas, is a natural, quiet place for healing and wellness. Is there an app for that? Yes, there is. I'm going to propose that the app be called Inspiration, and that it is being developed by us. It's a shareware program, and we are what are called passionate people. And so where do we get this inspiration? We get it in nature. Okay, that's one place. And in nature, and there's a lot being said about this in these days. There's a wonderful book called out, what's it called? Sweetgrass, what is it?
Braiding Sweetgrass.
Wonderful book about our reciprocal relationship with nature and the natural world. So we're learning more about, at least I'm learning now, the vocabulary of this keen engagement that we can have with nature, which we all need, and the millennials really want, and they know quite how to get it. And as horticulturists, we have this golden opportunity to say, here's your ticket in. You can get into nature with a potted succulent on your windowsill, then a few more potted plants, then a whole patio of them, then maybe a garden, and then maybe working in a garden or volunteering, and then you start to process, wow, I can go out into the wild meadow and enjoy it for what it is. We also get our inspiration in gardens, that's what we're talking about, and that's a reciprocal relationship. And I have an idea, and maybe Nicholas Staden could help me on this, and some of you others who have been, Lily, of course, and the people that have been gardening for a long time. I honestly believe that when a gardener dies, because gardens outlive us, I believe that the garden mourns. I believe that there's a keen relationship between a garden and the gardener. And the garden, not just because of lack of care, the person isn't there to water. It's about a relationship, and there's a period of mourning that the garden goes through until it's picked up and loved again by a new gardener. And I want to develop this thought, and maybe if anybody has any thoughts to that effect, I'd love to hear them. But we're also inspired by people. And I wanted to spend a little time talking about this man called John Doherty, who was the single most influence in my life in horticulture. He was the director of horticulture at Rancho Santa Ana Botanic Garden. He comes from Scotland, the east coast of America, with his young family. This guy was old enough to be my dad. I was old enough to be his kid. His kids were my age. Get it? So we would sit, Jeff Bohn and I would sit there under his storytelling, hours into the evening at Rancho, because he opened the place up for us to gather cuttings to start our nursery. He said a role of the Botanic Garden is to support the nursery industry, not indefinitely. We couldn't go back all the time for the same cuttings. He said, boys, you gotta make your own stock plants. You gotta grow your own mother plants. But here's a start. And then we would listen to his stories, how other plantsmen like him in Pennsylvania and here in California would sit around after work. Someone would bring in a dormant twig of a tree, and they'd look at it, pass it around, unable to identify it. They'd take off in a car, 2 hours drive, to go find that tree and decide, what is this tree? I'm listening to this, I'm in my mid-20s, this guy's in his 60s, and I'm going, wow, who lives like that? We were worlds apart, okay, in our generation, but we spoke the same language. In other words, we were generations apart, but we were in the same world, which is horticulture. And there's Gloria Castillo, our cutting propagator. She's here tonight, and she's presenting John several years ago here at the nursery, showing him a rooted flat of cuttings of the namesake Arctostaphylos John Doorley, which we named because Rancho Santa Ana gave us the hybrid, which John had watched for many years in the garden, and said, you guys introduce it. What are you going to call it? Well, a close second was like pink confetti or something. It wasn't even a second. It was like, we're going to call it John Doorley. It's one of the finest manzanitas on the market. This one is growing with no water at all on an abandoned parkway in San Juan Capistrano, and all the other bare ground around it had John Doorley manzanita on it, which were overwatered by a landscape art contractor who made mistakes. And they all died, and this one was on the edge where it didn't get any water. They turned the water off and look at it. So John is this huge man in my life. He's gone now for a few years, and recently I visited his wife, and I called my widow, Kathleen, and I emailed her last week saying I was going to mention him at this evening's event. And she said, oh, how we miss him. Or something like that. It was so dear. But she, on one occasion, gave me several books from his library. And some of them I already had copies. I do have books. Virginia Gardner, we see her name on this list. She would see me coming and she'd see 500 bucks. Remember how she would know which book you wanted? And she'd have it off in a little stash. Mike, these are just for you. So I had several of them, but I took them graciously saying, thank you for these. You know why? Because you open to the frontispiece and here are the names. Percy Everett, who gave it to John Doorley. And now I can add my name on the chain of title of these books. It's unbelievable. This man and his wife, Kathleen, have done so much for me. So inspiration is reciprocal and it is passed around in stories. So what is the question? How do we write an app to inspire young people into this passion that we have for plants, gardens, beauty, nature, and wellness? Because effectively, when we're in the world of horticulture, we're in the world of healing. We're in the world of making people well. So it's kind of like healthcare. In fact, I have an MD friend who's starting a new practice, and I said, are you going to have room for seminars? He just looked at me without a blink and said, we're going to do them at Tree of Life Nursery. And he meant it. His new place is going to be called the Women's Health Institute for Specialized Medicine. And he's an OBGYN, you'll see him in a minute. So let's get in closer to view that this desert scene back here, we see a few flowers on the floor, but here we see that indeed they are abundant and beautiful. And let's examine our problem, our question, our dilemma a little closer, get in close to this Mimulus bigelovii and see, wow, there's a little beetle on the top petal. I didn't even notice that until you download the photo. That's how these things go sometimes. And so what the problem is that we have to be in the same world even though we're generations apart. And this is what's going, one person who identifies as a millennial told me, she tells her friends that she's a horticulturist and they say, what's that? Okay, we got a problem. If that's the actual fact of our passion and our love. Here is our staff at Tree of Life Nursery for our Christmas 2018 photo. And there are a few more that have been added since this photo. But we are heavily weighting it on to the younger generation because every healthy ecosystem is multi-generational. So this room, my nursery, our world of horticulture, the more multi-generational we are, the healthier we are. When we interview, we can't select by age, you know that. But we can ask questions. So I say, hey, how can you help us get onto social media? I figured out how to pronounce that because my son-in-law, Bobby Cressy, told me years ago, you gotta be on Instagram. Because Danny, my son, told us years and years ago, we gotta have a better web presence. You know, I've been coached into this. So I'll ask the old people, can you help us be present in social media? They'll look at me with a blank stare. I'll ask a young person, hey, can you help us get into social media? They'll look at me with a blank stare. What? But here's why. The old person says, with their blank stare, basically, no, I can't do that. The young person is basically saying, duh, this is what I do. I'm combing my hair. I do it every day. I can do it while I'm driving. There's no stopping me on Instagram. Why are you asking me this? So this is you folks. Just last March when you invited me to speak here, Southern California Hort and Griffith Park. That's the average age of the people in this room. I'm not saying that's bad. There's a lot of knowledge, passion, beauty, love, companionship, inspiration in this room. But where's it? Look at you see yourself, don't you? I love it. But where's it going from here is the question. Where is it going from here? This is what our concern is, and it's not a dire concern, nor is it a negative thought. We're in good hands. Elijah of old, from the Old Testament, was bummed out after huge victories, thinking, I'm the last prophet that God for the true word. Remember this story? All you who graduated from Sunday school or even Saturday school, we're talking about Elijah. And God took him to a place and he said, look, you're not the last one. There are 9,000 prophets who are still following the truth. And he didn't know that. So if I start feeling lonely, or you, in the world of horticulture as the last man standing, there are 9,000 millennials out there who are wanting to do this right. See the analogy? By the way, that's San Diego Hort, and they do meet at a wonderful synagogue facility in La Jolla. And there is a young lady walking across in the center of the room, but she's one out of about 70. This is Pack Hort. They meet in Los Altos, Mountain View, Cupertino. What's the difference? Google is down the street. What's the average age of the people in this room? What's the average age of the people at the Google office literally down the street? So how are we going to get them into this room? How are we going to go to them? We're going to speak. We're going to talk about stories. Thank you, Erin. Where are you? She's awesome. Erin Castillo. She's with SoCal Hort. She put this photo on Instagram yesterday with a question to spawn conversation. I asked a real live millennial to lift it off of your Instagram post and send it to me. I asked another real live millennial, what's the story here? And she said, make horticulture cool. So I give credit to them for helping me make the slide. I did, however, make the captions and place them. I am somewhat, I'm useless, but I'm not helpless. So what do we do? And this is in case any of us want to publish. I made some big words with an acronym. You're going to love this. Multi-generational, interdisciplinary, communicative experience. Emily, can we announce one at our next Saturday workshop? Yes, a multi-generational, interdisciplinary, communicative experience. Nice. But here's Dr. Leon Baginski. Look at the average age in this room. Kids, young parents, their parents, other kids, teenagers. And what's he doing? He's talking about butterfly gardening at Tree of Life on what we call a normal Saturday workshop. So we need to tell stories back and forth, and we need to listen to stories. And we want stories in our world. Talking with my class yesterday at Saddleback College, one of my students texted me this while we were talking. And it's just a graph, and it's about some conference that was held in Berlin. That's immaterial. What is intergenerationality? It's a big word, that's what it is. But look, it just says, so simple. Younger generation, older generation, cooperate, exchange, interact. So it's being talked about in other circles besides horticulture, and it's being talked about in other countries besides America, and it's being noticed as a phenomena that has to be addressed, especially if you're trying to pass on a passion. I don't like to say pass on the torch, because here's what I think is wrong with the relay race analogy. The runner that gives the baton peels off, and he's not there anymore. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about everybody get on this trail, walk together, tell some stories, go off and live your own lives, because we're in different generations, but then come back to that trail and share stories again, and all of us can get good at both telling stories and listening. So what is the story you're trying to tell? Does it need to be told, and do you tell it well? This is the teaching outlined by a famous plein air painter called Samuel Hyde Harris, a California plein air desert father from the 20s. Mark Kirchhoff, a contemporary of ours, painted this lovely painting of the desert, much in the Samuel Hyde Harris style. But we filter everything we do at Tree of Life Nursery through these three questions. What is the story you're trying to tell? Does it need to be told? Did you tell it well? That's whether it's a garden design, a program, an article we're writing, an Instagram post, plants we're going to grow, contract. What are we trying to do as far as telling stories? The ancients here in California did it with rocks. They told stories on cave paintings and with placed rocks. And it was ancient technology in discovery, identification, research, and record keeping and sharing. So let's go in. I just have a couple more stories before we finish up here. In modern technology, since this is ancient technology in these four areas, in modern technology, in discovery, here is Randy, and she is experiencing a brand new plant that she didn't know until now. And I used to say, leave your device at home, go outside, and get into nature, let nature get into you. Oh man, that's so militant and so wrong. Okay, so I stopped saying that, pretend you never heard it. What's better would be to say, take your device with you, keep it in your pocket until you need it to make your experience in nature more rich. Then take it out and use it as a tool in this wild place, which she is doing by taking a photo here. And quickly, by doing that, and there is the very photo she took, she's making a photo archive, she's making a plant ID, she's getting a GPS reference, she's putting it as part of her personal plant catalog, she's turned it into an Instagram story, and she's got a memory of it, all with a click of an iPhone. Modern technology and identification. Similar story. See this plant. Wow, Alan, you know this plant? We all know this plant. Okay, so I couldn't remember the name of this plant except for the word broom. So I'm looking at it saying, no, it's not exotic. Broom. I've grown this plant. Idea is here. She's our seed propagator. She knows that you have to plant a lot of seed because the PLS, Pure Life seed, is really low percentage and the germ rate is really, so a pillowcase full of this fluff on a flat to get a few seedlings. So we know this plant. I know this plant. Couldn't remember the name. I'm walking around, I'm stroking my beard, that helps me think. I'm scratching my head. You know the idea, you know, the thinking stuff. And you're, what is this plant? What is this plant? I've got my back turned. Here's Randy over there. She very carefully and with perfect pronunciation, slight inflection for a question. Lepidus squamatum? I looked around like it was a voice from heaven. That's what it is. I looked at her and said, oh, okay, of course. You were on iNaturalist. I thought you were texting or taking a photo, texting your daughter or taking a photo. And she says, oh, I was doing that too. Modern technology in research and record keeping. A very similar story. Here's my dog, Dakota, me, we're out there in the desert. You see the desert's way down there. There's a plant right down there called Amelanchier utahensis. There's Dakota right here in this desert view place. I bring it back to the nursery. And there's Dakota again, that guy. So Kevin, who's here tonight, I say, I think I got Amelanchier alnifolia. And he looks it up on a Calflower, the keyboard, pulls it up. There's the entrance. Look at this, right at where you were. Howard McMinn belongs to a collection from 1936. Wow, Katie, all these people are of the younger generation. We're all talking story together. It's just a plant, it's just a database. Databases don't tell stories. They kind of do, but they're not embellished. So Katie says, wow, I only know the name Howard McMinn from the Manzanita. Oh yeah, well, I go over to my library and pull out McMinn, California Shrubs, 1938 with a 1970 reprint. Dakota's looking on. We get it out. Who's Howard McMinn? Well, Howard McMinn was the professor of botany at Mills College. That's a all-girls school was in Oakland. Virginia Gardner went there, not during the Howard McMinn era, but all this turns into a story, and all because I found it there. And we looked it up. But who looked it up? The people that are like on it with the computer and the iPhone. Me, back here, when she tells me that name and she's got it logged into her iNaturalist account and the GPS coordinates, here's me. I go to my map bag, find the right USGS 7.5 minute quadrangle, rifle through that, find my pencil, oh, it's broken, find my penknife, sharpen it, find a level place, try to, see what I'm saying? Now, there's nothing wrong with that. That's cool stuff too, and if later some of you millennials could, around a camp, at a picnic table under a lantern, see that technology of logging and making notes on USGS quadrangles, that's valid. So what I'm trying to say is storytelling, like all inspiration, goes two ways. One more, sharing technology. I pulled into the nursery one day and this young mom was taking this picture or texting or what should I say, posting this little girl right there. Man, that's too precious. I snapped the photo. I walk over to her and I say, look, this is the photo I just took. Isn't it cool? She says, that's so awesome. Can you share that with me? Boom, airdrop. She's got it in 30 seconds. So we're here at Tree of Life Nursery, and many like us, and many of you as well, are deeply interested in turning this into a multi-generational experience, and you're on it already with SoCal Hort, with your Instagram, and Tree of Life, and we have, what do you call it, and followers, yes, that's it. And we're learning, at least I am. And those who know are patient with me. I love that. But we have, as our middle name, Rustic. We're out in this awesome place, and we have nature all around us, and nature in us, and natural, you name it. And we have workshops that we feature this wild and natural and healing environment that we love so much. There's our office, which we built to look like an old Adobe. So the thing about there's our insides of our office. We can't get all of California in this place. Here's our little store. Try to make it look like old California, like Richard said earlier. We really appreciate those comments. And inside Casa La Paz, every now and then, Trio Los Dos Mas Uno plays. We really are Trio Los Dos, the two old cats there. But Bobby Presley, when he visits and brings his keyboard, he's the Mas Uno, and he brings real music to our world. So, nature is alive and well, and so is its relationship to the millennial generation, except the millennial generation just has to have a charging cord and an extra battery. Okay? If you have those, you can have a great time sharing with the world your experience. This is the day that Tree of Life Nursery reached 2,000 followers. So how do we do this? We do it with story. We want to tell more and more stories. And these are the things that we're doing in our workshops. We tour young people through our nursery facilities and try to inspire and be inspired. Because again, stories are reciprocal. Here's a small collection of books and resources being the iPad. But you see the new cards, which Theodore Payne Foundation has just released. They tell what makes them so unique and so beautiful is that there's a concise story about each plant in 2 languages. Lily Singer is instrumental in writing most of the text on these things, and it's just unbelievable how this tells a story. But each one of these books, we've got Lester Roundtree, McMinn, Lenz, Ralph Cornell, Edmund Yeager, and then back in the back, Wildflowers of Orange County. Bob Allen is here with us. And by the way, the reason why all of these, and he's present, and so is Lily, are so important is because they don't just talk about plants, but when you look up a plant in Bob Allen's book, co-authored with Fred Roberts, you'll see that the plant will be described. Fair enough, it's a flora. But then next, what are the plants around it? What does it look like? What could it be if it's not this? What are the insect relationships, pollinator and other wildlife ecological notes? Where did the name come from? Who's it named after? Where did they live? What was their story? And so each plant is a story. And Bob, who's you've had as a speaker here is an excellent storyteller, great educator, and he's making a difference in what we're talking about tonight and getting people inspired into this world of California native plants and especially horticulture as an entry into nature and the bigger issues of conservation. So we need to inspire and be inspired, not in spite of or turning it off or leaving it alone, but through technology. And what we're trying to do at Tree of Life, and I know that there are other nurseries and botanic gardens with the same emphasis. Just go on social media and you'll know that this is true. The technology of growing good plants, the technology of making and keeping beautiful gardens, and the technology of telling stories, because that's what we love. What do they call it on Instagram when it's just going to last for 24 hours? A story. This is what people want, and in order to bring that younger generation of folks who really want nature in their lives, and they are unsure how to find it, and we say, we've got it, we've been doing it our whole life. It's called horticulture. Let's just tell stories and listen to stories and walk on that same trail. And let's start them young. So I did this to embarrass my own grandsons. The fellow in the lower left is now 13 years of age. That's Joshua. And the fellow in the upper left, is Zachary, now 10 years of age. And the little darling there that's helping me model Theodore Payne Foundation t-shirts is Charlotte, and that picture was taken only about 3 weeks ago. And we're there with the TPF wardrobe. So I just want to say thank you to such a fantastic and a venerable group of professionals and enthusiastic gardeners, plants people that I know, those that I don't, those that I just want to meet for the first time. Amazing group, SoCal Hort. Thank you for this great honor of calling me a hottie. I love that. Beyond real. Thank you so much.